Hi everyone and welcome back. In this video we will be discussing the four elements of creation and how their energy breaks down. So Sterling, could you give a breakdown for the elements in dimensional reality?
Well, before we get down into the element breakdowns, let's discuss where the elements come from and the divisions and how they work. So the first step, because we've talked about the all before in different videos, is the all created the division within itself, which was reflection. Okay, one and two dimensional have the energy getting poured into it and it reflects it. Three-dimensional reality is the refraction that comes off the surface. Okay, and those create our dimensional realities that we and everything else exist in. Now, when we talk about other divisions, the all divides into masculine energy and feminine energy. Masculine energy is projective. So when we talked before about the spirit of the universe and the soul of the universe, masculine energy would be the spirit of the universe, the energy being projected into the soul of the universe. The soul of the universe being receptive, so that being feminine. Okay. Now those two break down into and divide into two themselves. So masculine energy divides into fire and air. Feminine energy breaks down into water and earth. Okay. And it's just energy at that point. Okay. And the powers that that energy has in one-dimensional reality is fire is heat, air is agility, water is grossness without overstepping its bounds, it's a strange one, and earth is firmness. Okay. And a lot of these breakdowns we get from like Plato, Socrates, and so on. So when we look at those in those terms, they're just measurements of one thing. Again, one-dimensional reality. That's all it is. Okay. Now, when we go into two-dimensional reality, okay, two things happen. Those break down into two parts. Okay.
Okay.
In three-dimensional reality, it changes the terminology. So heat becomes motion in three-dimensional reality. Okay. Air becomes velocity. Water becomes density. Earth becomes durability. Okay.
Okay.
And in three-dimensional reality, those are terms that we can deal with. Okay. In two-dimensional reality, okay, they take on powers. Each of them have two powers associated with them. And things become cyclical at that point.
Okay, so that's where the cycles start.
Yes, the cycles start in 2D. Okay. So fire is hot and dry. Okay. Hot being proper to fire, dry being a means to cycle into the next element. Okay. The next element there would be earth, because earth is dry and cold. Dry being proper to it, cold being the means to go into water, which is cold and moist. Cold being proper to water, not moisture. Moist being a means to move into air. Okay. Air is moist and hot. Moist being proper to it, hot being the means to move into fire. And that's the cycle that they go through. Okay. And in three-dimensional reality, that cycle, the main cycle that controls for us are the actual seasons. Okay, because let's start those seasons in spring. Spring is moist and hot, which cycles into summer, which is hot and dry, which cycles into autumn, which is dry and cold, which cycles into winter, which is cold and moist. And that cycle continues to go, and that's the cycle of our seasons, and that's what sets up the only way that we can live and survive here on this planet.
Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, that's the outside of the circle. Now the inside of the circle breaks down into threes, three-dimensional reality. And it breaks into the cardinal, fixed, and mutable, or personal, creative, and spiritual. Okay? And those things blast into many differences, because we talked about the differences in like polarities. Polarities, you have one polarity in two-dimensional reality, and yet the pole, you have many poles for the same thing in three-dimensional reality. And I think we brought up taste when we did that one.
Yes, yep.
Like bitter sweet, bitter spicy, bitter, salty. Those are all polarities of the same thing existing at the same time in 3D. Okay? So the elements themselves take on different forms. Okay? All meaning essentially the same thing. Okay? So you can even go, we just talked about cardinal fixed mutable, enable a process, okay, empower a process, and then execute the process. Same cycle. Initiate, build, and complete. Okay? And when it completes, it again transforms into the next one. Okay? It also takes on a different form. It takes on positive, negative, charge. In the absence of charge, it takes up space in a neutron. So protons, electrons, and again neutrons. Okay? And in doing so, the way we get that is positive charge are protons, because protons pretty much determine what something is. It initiates what it's going to be matter-wise.
Okay. Okay.
So the proton itself is positively charged. Okay. And again, it initiates because it determines what that is. The negative charge, okay, the electron, we determine is fixed energy, and we determine that because it's not actually inside of the nucleus; it's outside of it, and its whole purpose is to attract others to it. Okay, to build on.
Right.
And that's exactly what fixed energy works.
Yes.
And how the atoms connect together to create matter. Okay, so we know that's fixed energy because that's what fixed energy does. Protons. Or, I'm sorry, not protons, neutrons,
yes.
are next. Okay, neutrons are absence that takes up space, okay? Because they're absent of charge, but they take up space inside of the nucleus with the protons, okay? And that would be spiritual energy. It would be mutable energy. It's flexible. It's transforming, okay? It moves into the next thing. It is infinity because of its absence. But at the same time, it takes up space in itself, okay? And that's where the neutrons exist. So we have the building blocks of matter there also. Okay. Now, when we look at the wheel that we just talked about, the cyclical wheel of the seasons, okay, they break down into those cardinal fixed and mutables.
Okay.
So spring breaks down into what we call Aries, Taurus, Gemini for the people who know the zodiac. Okay. What does that actually mean? Well, fire is expression. Okay.
Yeah.
Air is interaction. Water is sensitivity. Earth is substance. Okay. We talked about cardinal fixed and mutable, being cardinal is personal.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Fixed energy is creative, the building aspect of it. Okay. And because of the absence that takes up space, which in mathematics would be zero, which is, again, no beginning, no end, infinity, we would call that spiritual, for mutable energy. Okay? So when you look at the elements that way, Aries, because it's fire and it's cardinal, is personal expression. So the wheel starts with personal expression. Okay? Then it moves into Taurus, which is creative substance because it's fixed and it's earth. Then it goes into Gemini. Okay? Gemini is being mutable energy. Okay? And Gemini means spiritual interaction. Okay? Because air is interaction and mutable energy is spiritual. That's the building block for spring. Summer, we move into Cancer. Cancer is personal sensitivity. Okay? Leo is creative expression. Right? And then we have Virgo. Okay? And Virgo is spiritual substance.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Now we're going to move into fall. Okay? Libra, personal interaction. Right? Scorpio, creative sensitivity. Right? Sagittarius, spiritual expression. Okay? Now we move into winter. Capricorn, personal substance. Then we move into Aquarius, creative interaction. Then we move into Pisces, which is spiritual sensitivity. Okay? And that connects the entire wheel together. Okay? In a three-dimensional reality. That's how the energy expresses there. 2 dimensions is the actual seasons turning into each other. 3 dimensions is how they split into 3, each one of them. Now at the same time, it follows another cycle, which allows the wheel not to break apart. Okay, and what connects them together? Because we've got the 3, 3, 3, 3. Okay, those make pieces, but those pieces could fall apart. Except that the entire thing starts with fire, goes earth, air, water, the four elements. That's what connects the outer layer. So you've got the 3, then you've got the 4 holding it together. 4, 4.
Okay.
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 That's what contains everything together and solidifies it. The 3 can't split apart because there's a 4th. The 4th can't split apart because it's part of the 3. Okay? And the seasons start the cycle flowing. Okay? And that's essentially the seasons of the year. So that's how annually our cycle works. Okay? Through the elements. Okay? Now, when we go back and we start talking about, well, because you said, you started out with fire is heat, and you broke them down into the 4, and then you said in 3-dimensional reality, it changes terminology, but it also, because it's breaking down in 1, 2-dimensional reality exist in 3, all of those terminologies divide into 2. So, motion, momentum and direction. Okay, that's what those divide into.
Okay.
That's what fire divides into.
Physically, that makes sense. Yes.
Velocity. Okay, speed and precision.
Mm.
Now, I don't use accuracy, and the reason I don't use accuracy is because accuracy means correct. If you are accurate, you're right. If you're precise, it doesn't mean you're right. You're just detailed.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, density, mass and volume. You can't use weight because weight is dependent upon gravity. Volume and mass are not. Okay, and then you have durability, which is strength and stamina. Okay, and that's how those two things split into 3-dimensional reality. Okay, and that forms how energy moves here. Okay, and how it works here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, everything is in motion because again we work in cycles. And there's your fire. It keeps the momentum going. It causes the momentum.
Well,
how
and that
fast
that,
it
that
goes,
well, and that
and where it goes, that's air.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how dense that energy is, that's water. Okay. And then the form that it takes, the substance that those things form on their own, that's your earth. Okay. Now, we talked about unconscious and conscious before. Okay. And in that, you can't really talk about that with fire and air because it's constantly projecting, it's constantly moving, it's constantly going. However, the potentials that are here that we're working with, because we're talking about water, okay, and which is the soul. We've talked about that before, so the soul of the universe, okay, but she's not just water, she's also earth, okay, and earth. Now, in that regard, when we talked about consciousness, we talked about water being unconscious and we talked about earth being conscious. Okay? So, water aspects of the universe, okay, those things that aren't solid in any form, okay, are unconscious of themselves. All of the objects that substance creates are conscious of themselves. Water is not.
Okay.
Which is why I'm conscious of myself and you're conscious of yourself.
Right.
We're two different things. We're two different beings. We're two different objects.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Substance. Okay. The air flowing in the room is not conscious of itself. It could be carrying things that are consciousness of something else, but it itself is not. Neither is heat. Heat is just penetrating.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Okay. To be conscious of it or unconsciously aware of it, that is all feminine. That's all water and earth. Fire is just energy, or masculine, I should say, fire and air. It's just energy moving. Whether it's moving through your thoughts and you're creating those theories and ideologies and all of that, but to actually comprehend it, understand it, bring it down, ground it, you need the feminine. Because the feminine is the potential. Otherwise, there's no potential for anything you're not moving anything. You're just burning stuff.
Right, yes.
Okay? You're just burning or speeding things up and slowing them down. That's all you're really doing with the others.
Right, right.
Okay? Now again, because we're talking about this, we have to go back again to Plato. because Plato, again, gives objects in three-dimensionality, kind of like he gave the power systems, hot, dry, dry, cold, cold, moist, to two-dimensionality. In three-dimensionality, he gives different powers, which he calls qualities, okay? And there's three of them for each element. Okay, we start out with fire and earth, okay? Fire is bright, thin, and has motion, okay? Earth is dark, thick, and quiet, and not just being no sound, still, okay? So no motion, okay? Those two energies completely oppose each other and could never actually work together on their own because one would always be falling to the center, the other one would be flying up to the top.
Right, yeah.
So what happens is air and water become two mediums connecting those two together.
Okay.
And they don't have qualities of their own, they borrow qualities from the other two. Okay? So air borrows, it's got motion, it's thin. Okay? But it doesn't give off bright, it's not bright at all, air on its own. So what does that make it be? It's dark. So it gets dark from earth, and it gets thin and motion from fire.
Okay.
Water, on the other hand, receives one quality of fire, motion. Okay? But it's dark and thick, and it gets that from earth. Okay? And it's those two mediums connecting to the two opposing energies melding together, because they're the only difference between air and water at that point is one is thick and one is thin. Otherwise, they're exactly the same. Meld together, and that's how those energies don't fly apart and never meet. That's how energy.
Right, they form an interconnected.
Yeah, an interconnection that we can all, that all things work through. Okay, and that's Plato's breakdown, essentially, of the elements in three-dimensional reality. Okay, which makes sense. Okay, because when we look at how science breaks them down in different forms, like we've talked about strong nuclear is fire. Okay?
Yes.
It blasts, it's hot, fries everything. Okay, it's essentially the sun, energy comes out, you know, so it's fire. Okay, now weak nuclear energy doesn't work the same way. It dissolves. Okay, it's decaying, it's dissolving, and what dissolves? Water dissolves. So weak nuclear is water. Okay, electromagnetic is the air around us. It's the atmosphere. Okay, that's air, right? And then gravity, of course, is earth.
Right.
Okay, ground, it's heavy. It has all the qualities. So they share all of these qualities. Okay, and that's, as far as the four forces of the universe, that's what we know. And that's how the elements break down into those. Now, there are also other ways that the elements, as far as energy is concerned, break down. Okay, we have like normal force. Okay, and I don't know if anybody knows what normal force is.
Okay. Yes, it's the force that prevents solid objects from passing through each other.
Yes, that's essentially what that is. Yes. Okay. So we have normal force. We have elasticity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We have friction.
Right.
Okay, and we have tension.
Tension, yes.
Okay. Now friction, of course, fire. Okay. Normal force, okay, is earth. Okay, because it
Right.
solid objects against each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Shifting, and that's what causes the normal force that we know. Now, elasticity, okay, is that it's flexible energy. It's that being able to pull apart.
Right, it's a property associated with...
Right, and it's the ability to do it.
Right.
Right. And what is tension? Tension is what's caused, essentially, when it happens. Okay, so, in that regard, Plato seems to be on track, even with science, because there's a slight difference between tension and elasticity. Okay?
Right.
Where, like we said before, the only difference in Plato's breakdown is one is thick and one is thin. And it's easy to mix the two together, and it's the same with elasticity and tension. Because a lot of people say it's the same thing, but it's not. They are not the same. Tension could be caused by how elastic something is. Okay, you can
Right.
find the tension, but the tension is not the elasticity of it. The elasticity is how it can do it.
Right, it's the
The tension
potential,
is
yes.
what it's doing.
Right.
Okay. So, again, those are how you break down the elements, 1, 2, and 3-dimensional reality, unless we want to get really involved in it. But there's another breakdown that we talk about in 3-dimensional reality. And Plato says that underneath the moon, the elements also break down into fire are animals. Okay? And again, what's the most expressive thing that we know on the earth? Animals in some form. Okay? Organisms. Okay? Plants, any type of plant, herbs, whatever, that's air.
Air, and that agrees with science also with the photosynthesis and
Yes,
respiration cycles for plants.
Exactly, yes. And then we have all metals are water, okay? And then all crystals and stones are earth, okay? And that's the balance and breakdown of the elements, okay? Which is what most people get wrong when they're trying to do anything spiritual on their own. They have gotten into a thing of lighting a candle, thinking that the flame and the color is the fire. And it does represent fire, that does represent fire, but in a lower, unbalanced form. You can't balance out incense or essential oils with a candle or a color. You need animal energy. Now, a long time ago, they used to rip animals apart for the energy, okay? Don't need that anymore. There's one thing that Native Americans here in the United States taught us, was that you can use totem energy without killing the animal. And it actually lasts much longer, and you can utilize it for an extended period of time. Because essentially, once you kill the animal, right after you kill it and use it for its purpose, it's done, and you need another one. And there's no point in doing that.
Right, yeah.
Because you can use the energy from an existing one that is alive and still take on the attributes of it, instead of having to kill it, or you've essentially killed the attributes.
Right.
And you're trying to use what you can before they expire. And that's no good for anybody.
Right.
You know.
How does the potency rank between using a sacrificial animal and
As far as, well, in my experience, to be honest with everybody out there, totem energy works much better. It's much stronger, and you can connect them to things. You can discover through deep meditation your animal totems for every single one of the chakras in the body. Okay, your personal totem, which will be with you for life, and it's essentially your behavior, not your chakra or energy behavior, but your own personal behavior. And then dream totems. Okay, and that's how you express yourself through dreams. You know, like mine, I'll just say out there, the Black Panther. That's what came up for my dream totem when I did my meditation for it. And it made perfect sense, because a lot of the times I'm like an observer looking in on my dreams.
Okay.
I'm not always the main part of the dream. A lot of the times I'll be on the outside looking down, almost like I'm sitting up in a tree at night, like a panther would.
Right.
Looking down and observing. Okay. And that opened my eyes to a lot of things for my dreams, and interpreting what was happening in my dreams and why I dream this way and other people dream that way. How come I'm not always the main focus of my dreams where a lot of other people are? I know a person who theirs is a lion, and they're the main focus almost every single time they dream. They're the main focus, it's about them, the whole thing's about them, it's always about them. Okay, and it's about what they're doing and how they're doing and how it's making them feel, and it's about them doing things, either for other people, career-wise, anything like that. And it's because of the lion energy, the behavior, when they're in their dreams, as opposed to mine, being the observing one. And it's just because the animals are different, and there are different attributes to every animal. But then again, we're talking about animals, animals also subcategorically break down into the elements. All mammals are fire, birds are air, okay? Cold-blooded is water, and then insects are earth, okay? And that also opens up a whole new meaning for things, okay? So again, my dreams, expression. Somebody else that has, like, let's say you've got, I don't know, shark. something that
Well,
of the
there's
sea. Yours is gonna be more about sensitivity, sensing things, emotion. Your dreams are gonna go that way most of the time, where mine aren't. Mine are gonna be about expression,
okay.
expressing energy.
Okay. Now there's well, that coworker that we had mentioned before with the smudging.
Yes.
Mentioned that one of hers is the bee, the bumblebee.
Okay. So the bumblebee, that's a good one too. Bumblebees, again, because it's an insect, but they fly. So they break down subcategorically again
Okay.
into air. Okay. So her dreams are going to be about substance and then interacting with other substance. Whether that's people, whether that's earth, whether that's whatever it is. Hers are going to be focused more on the insect world, how the insects work, the bee world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Being a part of a hive. I mean, that's where it's going to be. Okay. And she might also be very strong when it comes to being a female.
Mm-hmm.
Because the queen bee rules the hive.
Right, yes.
Essentially. But at the same time, that a lot of the queens control the hive, they're stuck in their role because the hive can't exist without them.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And so they can't go off. You're not going to have one of these freedom, running around doing all this that. They have to be a part of a center thing, and they're going to be one of the people in control, if not the one running things. They may not be on the outside running things, but on the inside they will be. Kind of like a mother in a home. A lot of times, people always say, well, yeah, the father was the dominant one because different religions and things of that nature, he was ruled. But most people know that the mother is the grounding central force of the home.
Right, right.
Okay? Dad's at work, mom's at home.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a
That's the way it was.
favorite movie quote of
yes.
mine, where a mom is talking to a bride-to-be and says, yes, the man may be the head, but I'm the neck, and I can make the head turn wherever I want.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, things of that nature. But, and again, a lot of that turns into social things too. Okay, but that is a breakdown that somebody with that totem might find themselves in the position of being, of having to hold everything together. Okay, so while the men are out expressing and interacting and doing that, somebody has to be the potential for them. Somebody
Right.
has to ground everything and hold everything together. Okay? And that's generally what you're going to get with those things. And the bee insects themselves are earth, so same thing. Okay, but there's going to be some masculine because air is masculine interaction, and the bee again so categorically breaks down. But inherently it's feminine because it's insect.
Fascinating, fascinating.
And then again, if you're using that in some sort of a ceremony or trying to balance out a prayer or something that you're doing, and you're trying to whip up a bunch of energy and put attributes in it, B is good. And again, you've got all these subcategorical breakdowns, but they're still balanced because it's an insect and it's earth. Okay. Okay. But at the same time, it's fire because it's an animal. So
Right.
all of that is the fire part of that particular ceremony can totally subcategorically broken down into different parts. And then whatever herbs they're using will be part of it. And then the metal that they're using would be part of it. And then the crystalline stone that they would have out would be part of it. And if that happens to be in the form of an animal, you're going to have a subcategorical breakdown of fire. Okay? If, like the metal, and most people don't understand the metal aspect because when they go to the church, it's in the form of a cup. Usually it's a metal cup with water in it, and they think it's a liquid in a cup when it's actually the metal the cup's made out of. And that was done a long time ago so that people wouldn't, if you tried stuff on your own, it wouldn't work. You had to go back to the church or whatever in order for things to be balanced out.
Right.
And they did that on purpose, and they always do.
Right.
Okay. And churches do use all of these things.
Well, that's fully fascinating because the Eucharist is utilizing, for example, all of the elements.
Well, the Eucharist but it's an air ceremony.
Yes.
It is. When you go back to where it came from, Christ, and he's like, well, the wine is my blood, drink of my blood. Well, blood is one of the humors of the body from Hippocrates.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 liquids of the body: choler, phlegm, blood, and melancholy. Choler being yellow bile, and it's associated with fire. Okay, blood is associated with air.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, melancholy is black bile, it's associated with earth, and phlegm is associated with water. Okay, well, blood being associated with air. Okay, that's what you're drinking. Okay, it's essentially his blood. Okay, and what was the Eucharist itself is of his flesh, right? Well, when you break the body down, bones are earth. Okay, flesh is air. So again, we're getting air again. Okay.
Right.
So it's air, and air is interaction and it's communication, and it's called communion.
Right. In the Protestant church, it's
Right.
known as the Holy Communion,
Yes,
which
and
is
that's
interaction with
Christ.
the divine.
Yes, Christ.
Yeah.
So that whole thing is an air ritual, a Christian air ritual, and
Fascinating.
that's how it's broken down.
Fascinating.
And it's even broken down the elements there. Most people don't realize that just about everything they do in their church goes back to the 4 elements being broken down into a ceremony or a ritual and balanced out completely, and that's why it works.
Completely fascinating.
Right.
That's
And then, of course, it's not the candles in the church that they're lighting.
right.
It's
No,
the
it's
people
the people
sitting in the
yes.
pews.
Yep.
That's the fire energy. That's why that's needed. That's what the fellowship's for. That's why you are 1/4 of the energy that needs to be in the ceremony for it to work. Which is why the church needs you in the pews to be a part of it.
Fascinating. Okay.
Mhm.
I have a question. We may have to cover this.
What?
At a
Well,
different
go
time.
ahead.
So Christ had mentioned, when 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how that works. I don't know if that relates to the elemental energy.
When 2 or 3 are together?
When
Well, sure it
two or
does.
3 are gathered,
Yeah.
then I am there with them.
Yes. Well, again, we're talking about the tetrad and the triad and how the 4 elements break down into both. Okay?
Okay.
So when there's 2 and Christ is part, he becomes part of the Trinity or the triad. When there's 3, he also is a part of the tetrad. How is that possible? The tetrad, again, is broken down, okay, into fire, air, water, and earth. When we look at the Trinity, which is the 4 elements,
Mm-hmm.
broken down into 3 parts, divine masculine, which we call intelligence, divine feminine, which is soul, okay, and of course, the
And
tip that
beauty.
those 2 will go into is beauty. It's physical beauty, which is earth, and it's beauty of spirit, which is fire, okay, and that's the point that Christ operates in the Trinity. He connects with us for that, because he is essentially the beauty of the spirit, and we are the physical beauty.
Right. Okay.
That's how that works. So when he's saying that, he's a part of both. He's a part of every element, and he's a part of all of us. And that's how he connects with us. So when there's 2 together, he creates the 3rd point. When there's 4 of us, he is in beauty of the spirit and physical part of the beauty. So he's in 2 of the points.
Okay. Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah.
That sheds a whole new light on.
Well, spiritual geometry a little bit,
Yes.
but that's the basis for it. And then the monad essentially is beyond that.
Okay.
There is no separation. It's all
It's the all. Yes. Yeah.
it's the all flowing through, coming through. Yeah. So
Okay. Okay. Now there was one other question that I had
Sure.
that popped in my head. If someone is dealing with raging thoughts and can't get their minds to calm down and just swirling and everything, can't relax, can't
mhm.
calm, how would you say go about
If you're trying to help them or do
Trying to
healing on
help.
them or something.
help them? Yes.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would do is put away all the incense and all the plants, because that's just going to magnify the brain's mental capacity to keep going into these cycles. You want to somehow ground them. Now, if you want to do it traumatically, you could hand them a really huge, big crystal that's been programmed and attuned to them for doing that. However, you might want to ease them into it. So you could burn an incense to start, but you would want to burn an incense that subcategorically breaks down into earth,
Okay.
okay, to help ground them. Take it down, slow it down. Because again, it's quiet, it's slow. And that's what you want the mind to do. You slow that down, okay? then you can incorporate, I'm talking about dry cold, a metal, and maybe pyrite. A metal that's associated with either fire to express all of that out in a different way, or you want to take it, if you want to continue the grounding aspect, something like granite, one of the heavier earthy stones, to solidify it, bam, slam it down. Okay. That would be a little less intrusive than going, hey, we're gonna
right.
you know, here's
Much
what we're
less,
gonna do.
much less energetically traumatic.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as an animal's concerned, an insect. Okay? That's what you're going to want to do with an insect. Not an ant, because ants are way too busy. Okay?
Right.
But you're going to want an insect like a praying mantis. Very patient. Okay? The expression is there, but the expression is slowed down and it's inward directed. Okay? And it's about calm and meditation. Because essentially that's what they are. Until it doesn't need to be, and of course that's when a praying mantis, strikes out. But that would be energies that you could use to help somebody with that while you're creating your, you're doing your Reiki or healing or whatever you're doing, or a spiritual healing or a prayer to help them.
Okay.
And, or just tell them to get them, pick these up, put them around you, okay? Because usually when we're doing that, it's usually when we're trying to sleep, things of that nature. Put them around your head, put them around your headboard.
I was just going to ask that if that's you're struggling personally with something of that nature.
Yes. Try to ground yourself.
Is there the physical objects clearly help?
They do. They do, but I
Like,
would burn the incense
Would you do
way before,
right?
just to get yourself a little grounded.
Right.
You don't want to do it right before you go to bed because that's wrong. So you would burn the incense maybe in the evening. After you don't need your mind going crazy on you at work or whatever you're doing. Then you would come home, light an incense, or take a bath with essential oil. Make sure you understand what oils you're using in a bath. The potency is unbelievable. There are some incense you do not use in a bath, and sage is one of them. It can put you into epileptic seizures. Don't use it. Okay? That's why most stores sell clary sage, but not all of them. You can find real sage. You don't want to use it on yourself ever. Anyway, sorry. But you can do that. You can put an oil in a bath that will help ground you a little bit. Okay. But when you're getting ready to go to bed, that's when you want to have the crystal out. Okay. You can do a little meditation or a prayer beforehand where you're utilizing an animal energy, like the praying mantis. I mean, that's what we're looking at, okay? And then the metal too.
Okay.
In your room. Now, you can also, if it's jewelry, you can wear the metal all day to help kind of ground your energies down. Put a stone in your pocket. Okay? A little figurine of the praying mantis, throw that in the other pocket. Anything you need to do, okay, to help clear that energy out. And just remember though, about every 6 months you got to clean and charge, reprogram and attune the totems that you have.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. All right. Well, I think that covers about everything. Unless you had something more.
No. I think that's about good for this one.
All right.
It's not overload everybody.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, and do remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.